Hello everyone, and welcome back to Warped Worlds, my own mapping series where everything is out of whack and nothing makes sense. We are now on episode 5, and if you haven't seen the previous 4 episodes, I recommend that you go watch all those ones before you watch this one, because we're going to be building off the last one, and that'll be the case for most of these episodes, so you better watch the earlier episodes before you watch this one. Anyways, let's jump right into this. Now, to start off, in the last episode, we talked about a power vacuum that exists in this world, and that I can't really accurately give power rankings without it changing between events in the episode. It's just too chaotic, and there's too much going on with all these different countries from different realities coming in, so there's not really anything you could do about that. Honestly, in the future, I might start giving little, oh, this country's the strongest right now, but I won't do a full list. But yeah, that is probably going to be the case for most of this series till around the end when it actually matters to know the power rankings. So yeah, let's go ahead and actually talk about what actually happened in the last episode. We started off over in Eastern Europe on the Alliances layer, where we saw Poland go ahead and formulate the Pentagon Alliance between them and their two allies, Belarus and Ukraine. We talked about how Belarus and Ukraine were kind of under Polish control, but not really. It's more like friend states, but how the US kind of instated their own leaders in many Central American countries and South American, Latin American countries throughout the Cold War. Kind of similar to that, but in a sense also not really. But yeah, this alliance is officially made. After that, we headed down over to Africa, where we saw a war happen in Angola, where the country in the southwest of the region got divided between the east and western countries. After that, we moved down to the Cape Republic here in South Africa, where they expand into the country that I do not remember what I called it in the first episode. Yeah, that's unfortunate. They just don't get a name, I guess. Anyways, after that, we moved over to West Africa, where we saw the union between Ghana and Benin to form the Gold Coast Union. After that, we headed over to Southeast Asia, where we saw the Philippines joining up with the Diamond Alliance. The Diamond Alliance is basically the democratic countries in China. Of course, some are probably less democratic than others. These guys are probably more theocratic nations over here, but what does it matter? Anyways, after that, we moved over to the Volga region, where we saw the Communist Volga Republic expanding into the Republic of Azov, which almost, or maybe doubled their size. I can't remember how big that country was or where the border was, because it's been a second since I recorded one of these episodes. But I think the Volga Republic at least doubled their size. It was a pretty big war. Anyways, we saw in Oceania the collapse of Australia, so now this continent is interesting and we can do stuff here if we want. So yeah, pretty cool. Anyways, finally we finished off the video with a war in the two Yugoslav nations, as Yugoslavia in this timeline has divided and it's not looking too good. As we saw in the last episode, the Eastern Yugoslav countries started this war, and the Western one wasn't really ready for the war to happen. But I'm gonna do something that I kind of hinted towards earlier in the video, and that is a kind of power scale, because obviously we can't give a full power ranking, but I can tell you which one of these guys is stronger. And right now, that country is the Western Yugoslav country, as they have done a much better job at adjusting to this world so far than the Eastern country. And so, after an amount of time, I won't say how much time it takes because I don't really know myself, but after a certain amount of time, the West is able to form a counteroffensive, which goes ahead and drives most of these forces out. However, things aren't smooth sailing for them, because someone is a little bit hungry for land. Austrian forces, through the very small border they have, will go ahead and cross over into Croatia, it slipped out, the Western Yugoslav country. They use the Croatian flag, so, I mean, take that as you will, but yeah. Austria will join this war for one reason, and that is to expand their coastline, because I mean, in real life, Austria doesn't have a coastline, but here they do have a little bit of one, and they even have some real life Croatian land, and they just want to expand on that. Is it really in Austria's interest to join this war, though? Probably not, because, I mean, they waited out the Hungarian coalition to join. Joining early here doesn't really seem to work in their favor, because the Western Yugoslav country will just push them back pretty tremendously. They took about half the land Austria conquered back immediately, and after that, they still have enough to beat around the Eastern Yugoslav country quite a bit. So much so that they're going to retake their entire coastline, and they're going to start an offensive to the south. And this goes well for a little bit before Serbia. Oh my god, I need to get my countries right. Before Yugoslavia will go ahead and reassign some troops over here, which will go ahead and push this back, but at the same time it allows for the West to gain a little more ground throughout the rest of the front line. From here, however, it's going to get much worse because there are some countries who don't really like the existence of Yugoslavia. Yeah, Albania is joining this war. I think anybody and their mother would be able to predict this happening when I started this event in the last one. But yeah, Albania is going to be joining this war, which will officially make it a Balkan War. How many Balkan Wars is there? Can't really say, because in each of these countries' realities, there's probably more than what there are in our real life. So I'm not going to say what number Balkan War this is. Just say it's like the first warped Balkan War. And Albania isn't going to be joining this war alone, because Bulgaria is also going to go ahead and join this war to go ahead and expand their territory. In this timeline, Bulgaria is a pretty expansionist country. As you can see, they won the whatever Balkan War it was, they lost. They won that Balkan War in their timeline, and yeah, it's really doing a lot for them here, a lot of wonders, and a lot of countries aren't happy about that. Specifically Greece, who is maybe or maybe not allied to a certain somebody right here. So when they see two countries that they aren't necessarily favorable of, Albania and Bulgaria, both respectively, they're gonna go ahead and say, yo, Yugoslavia, you need some help. And they're also gonna talk with Romania about this, but Romania is kind of tired of fighting wars, so they're not gonna do anything as of yet. But eventually, they will go ahead and reach an agreement, and Greece will go ahead and declare war on both Bulgaria and Albania, launching their forces first into Albania to help take a lot of pressure off of Yugoslavia. They get a lot of done. I don't think that's like a sentence I've ever said before, but they're gonna get a lot done in southern Albania, and it's gonna cause Albania to have to reassign some of their troops, which causes their front line to fall back tremendously, but they will go ahead and push back the Greeks eventually. However, after this, the Greeks will also shift their focus over to Bulgaria to go ahead and retake some of their coasts that they have in real life. And yeah, Bulgaria is not going to like this. And Bulgaria is most definitely going to be able to outpower the Greeks here. And they're going to push them back all the way to their border near the coastal region, while also keeping up the front with, almost said Serbia, with Yugoslavia, even taking over this little area that Albania has to help Albania focus solely on Greece, because Bulgaria doesn't really want to have to focus on Greece. But things are about to take a massive turn in this war. Why, you may ask? Well, a certain Turkey is looking at this war, and they're like, I wonder how we can tear down every single country in this war and make sure none of them are powerful enough to face us, while still gaining as much land as possible without everybody fighting us. And so they're basically going to like sit and wait and talk with like many other like council members or whatever, however this Turkish government's like organized, and they're gonna eventually come up with a solution. They're gonna go ahead and take advantage of one side being distracted, and then they're gonna attack the opposite side, which the side who they're distracting is fighting. And I think a lot of people would understand how I'm gonna do this. But the Turkish fleet will go ahead and ship off to Crete and Cyprus in the middle of this war and go ahead and wipe out Cyprus. And a few days later, they're gonna go ahead and wipe out all of Crete. Not long after this, the Turkish will go ahead and join the war, not on the side of any specific other team, but on their own team, and their forces will start invading Bulgaria. So technically meaning they're at war with Albania, Bulgaria, Croatia, and I think that's it. And I didn't mean to call them Croatia. Gosh darn it. Anyways, at this point, with the Turks joining this war, someone else has made up their mind about which team they're going to join. That is Italy, because they have been eyeing up this conflict, and they're going to take advantage of it. And very similar to Turkey, their fleet is ready for this, as they're going to make a landing in Croatia, as well as in Albania, and they will quickly spearhead out and take the capital of Albania. The Italians will basically work with the Yugoslav and Greek governments to go ahead and divide out the rest of Albania. And Albania is not going to see the light of day after this. They're probably going to get completely annihilated off the map. Who knows? But Albania is going to go ahead and get completely occupied by the Alliance. I don't really know what this is really, but yeah. Anyways, moving back up to the front with Austria, they're gonna go ahead and speed things up, so to say, because they are still not able to push back the Croatians, and so they're just gonna invade Slovenia instead, pushing straight through this country. And then after they're done with Slovenia, they're gonna be able to push out into Croatian territory. So much so that they will reach the capital of the country. And I keep saying Croatia, it's not Croatia, just it's easier to say. But at this point it's over for the eastern or western Yugoslav country, and their capital will eventually be taken, and I'm using the wrong tool, great. But yeah, Austria will take their capital. Italy will go ahead and take the rest of their coastline, and from here, the country will go ahead and surrender. Which leaves the mighty country of Bulgaria, who at this point is not in a good position, even though they are up a lot of land. And at this point, Romania is gonna also join this war, and that's not good because they're pretty strong in this timeline. They took a lot out of Hungary, and the Turks are also coming in. Not good at all. And at this point, even the Greeks are seeing a lot of success against you, so maybe you should maybe back out of this war. And nope, there goes all your occupation in Serbia. So yeah, Bulgaria will basically have to surrender to the countries they were beating like a day before. So sorry Bulgaria, you're not winning this time. Even though you won in your reality, that doesn't mean you're winning in the long run. Anyways, let's go ahead and look at a peace treaty for this conflict, because we need to move on in this video and see other events happening. Alright, and now looking at this peace treaty, you can see that a lot has changed over here in Europe. Starting off over here in the north with Austria, you can see that they have annexed all of this northern area of Slovenia and the western Yugoslav country. As well as that, they got a little more coastline, not as much as they were hoping for, but at least they got some. Most of their land, though, was more inland gain, so unfortunately for them, they're not really benefiting too much from this. But of course, land is land, and it will definitely benefit them in the long run. Next up, moving on to Italy, you can see that they did gain this coastal region from Croatia. That's probably what Austria would have gained if Italy didn't join the war, but Italy did end up joining the war, so they did get that large share of land. As well as that, they got this large chunk of Albania, and as well as that, they got a little bit of North Macedonia over here that Bulgaria had. So they benefited from Bulgaria, even though they probably shouldn't have. Like, Bulgaria is all the way over here now. They don't even share a border with them, and they didn't before, which is a weird thing to think about. Anyways, moving on to the Yugoslav Republic, which it's now called that, no longer East or West, and they have gone ahead and fully integrated the rest of the Western country, which used to look like that, plus, of course, what was up here. So yeah, they integrated about half that country into their territory, including all of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which looks something like that. As well as that, they integrated all of Kosovo back from Albania, and a little bit of North Macedonia, and Bulgaria over here, which is a lot more than they probably expected to come out of this war with, except they probably would have liked to have all this over here, and probably Zagreb as well, but unfortunately for them, they didn't get that, and instead, they got probably an arguably more important piece of land, Kosovo, which they care about a lot more in real life. I don't know how much they'd care about it in this timeline, but they have it. Anyways, moving on to the Greeks, they did annex a lot of southern Albania, a little bit of North Macedonia, and a little bit more from Bulgaria. So they did get a lot out of this war, but they're probably more enraged out of the outcome because of our next country's expansion, which is obviously Turkey. So not only did they take out their friend in Cyprus, but they also expanded into Crete, which is not from the same reality as Greece, obviously, because it probably wouldn't be independent. But these two were probably gonna try to maybe unite as best they could, because Crete is probably not a sustainable country in a world like this. And unfortunately for them, they were too late, and the Turkish were fast, and they took a lot of land. And that land includes all this Bulgarian land here, which includes a little bit of Greek land. This is Greek in real life. And then they took a little bit of Bulgarian land here. Of course, they also took the rest of Thrice back. And Bulgaria, you also lost a lot of land later in the war because of Romania. I forget what it looked like, but it was something like this before, and now they lost all of that, and they are looking very, very small. That's pretty unfortunate for them, but Romania and Turkey have benefited greatly from this war. Italy as well. Italy in this time it's not looking too hot, but I mean, they're on the rise again, so who really cares? Anyways, I'm taking too long on this event. Let's go ahead down to Africa for our next event, and that is another event with you. We talked about this guy in the last episode, East Angola, and they are a terroristic kind of state. They're a rogue state, definitely, and they're on the rise. They are pretty powerful, and they are definitely a country you don't want to trifle with. So, who knows if this next event is staged or not, but a convoy heading into the Green Country through Zimbabwean territory from Namibia will be exploded in their territory right after leaving Zimbabwe. However, after this convoy is destroyed, it's gonna be cleaned up pretty quickly, and nobody knows where this stuff goes. Except they will find out within a matter of time that Angola, or East Angola at least, has taken the convoy, and they have 2 prisoners from the convoy, including the president of Namibia and the assistant to the vice president of the Green Country. Not so important to the Green Country, but they definitely want him back. And speaking of Namibia, they definitely want the president back. And it gets to a point where the Brown Angolan country has a lot of leverage over these 2 countries, and there's not much they can do about it. They saw what happened in this country. They know, even together, they probably can't defeat the Brown team. So, the Brown team's gonna begin to offer some things to these countries in order to get their guys back, you know? Namibia will have to offer a lot more to get their head figure back. And they're basically going to be blackmailed into giving a lot of money, a lot of their economy, to the Brown team in order to get their president back. I know this isn't realistic at all in how this would happen, but anything can happen in this world. Yay. And eventually, it's so bad that they spend a large portion of their GDP. I don't know what's realistic, so I'm not gonna say an exact percent. Getting their president back. They'll get him back, but they're in absolute shambles. This country's going down the drain, and it's taking a lot out of them. And the Green Zambian country knows that they definitely need to get their guy back. Though they're not trying to settle down. Instead, they devise up a plan. Invade in quickly to the capital. It's not too far. Get your guy back, and then hope for the best. Yeah, that's their plan. It's pretty bright, isn't it? Anyways, a few days after the Namibian president gets back to Namibia, the Green Team will officially launch their attack. The Green Team's not stupid, however. They waited. They were talking to the Namibians. They okay, you get your president out, then we strike. President's now back in Namibia, and the Green Team is on their way to the capital. After the guy is in Namibia, very quickly they will take the capital. However, little did they know, someone in the government isn't very fond of the existence of Green Zambia. Maybe you had something to do with it, but yeah, this whole plan got leaked to Brown Angola, so now the Angolans knew. And they relocated the assistant guy over to a settlement over here in the former Lime country. So he's nowhere near where the Green Zambians planned to invade. And now, it's a perfect setup for the Brown Angolans to absolutely obliterate the Green Zambians. And after about 3 days after they they search through the whole capital, they can't find him. A huge bombing run will go over the supply chain of the Green Zambian country, and they're just gonna absolutely obliterate everyone in their path. Even if their own citizens are in the line, they're just gonna explode it. Except for the capital, they're not worried about that. But very quickly, they're gonna move their forces in, and they're gonna isolate the Green Zambian forces in their capital, the largest encirclement in Warp World's history. And then they're gonna do some horrendous things to the entire Zambian army. And yeah, that's gone. You don't have much but the National Guard left, so be on the lookout for Angolan invaders. And oh boy, they're coming. They are coming very fast into your country, and it's not looking too good. The South will basically fold under pressure immediately, and you're not looking too good. Not long after the war goes into full swing, Zimbabwe will also begin an invasion without really saying anything. There's no official declaration of war. They also just send their forces in. And after that, we also see the Blue Zambian country invading as well. They're going to seize the capital of this green country pretty quickly. And yeah, at this point, there's not much this country can do. They're out of major cities, I think. I'm not going to check. Where am I? Okay. But anyways, what I was saying, they're out of major cities, they're out of money, and they've lost, unfortunately. So yeah, they're gonna have to surrender. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this war down here. So let's go ahead and look at a peace treaty for this small conflict. Alright, and this is the peace treaty that is agreed upon by the countries who invaded the Green Zambian country. And as you can see, Green Zambia no longer exists, and it's mostly been integrated into the Brown Angolan country, as of course their border used to lie somewhere around here, something like that. And they also had this and that and this, but yeah, they lost quite a lot. And as you can see, Angola gained the most, followed by Zimbabwe, and then the Blue Zambian country, who probably deserved the most out of this, because I mean, it's their breakaway, so I mean, who cares really? But Brown Angola is very happy after the results of this war, and yeah, now no one wants to mess with them. Not even the Triangle Alliance up here. They weren't really planning on it, but I mean, they don't want to mess with them anyway. So let's go ahead and move on to our next event, which is going to go ahead and happen in Northern Africa, so same continent. And yeah, this is a pretty predictable conflict. Probably would have happened in episode 1 if I had remembered it. But yeah, Morocco's gonna invade the rest of Western Sahara, which as you can see, this Western Sahara has had a pretty successful life. They're obviously independent, but that's not gonna last much longer, as this Morocco is out for vengeance and blood. They're very quickly gonna take over this large portion of the Sahara in their inner territory and basically push around their capital, taking as much as they can before, well, anyone retaliates. But I hate when my zoom in does that. It just sends me into the middle of the country after I do like one thing like that for a second, and I don't mean to do it. I don't know why it happens, but it does. Anyways, where was I? Eventually, the Moroccans will go ahead and secure most of the land surrounding the capital, and after this, they're basically going to focus on the coastline and some of the inner territory. Eventually, this whole southern area will fall into their possession, and so will the capital. So a pretty successful war for Morocco, and it gets even more successful as they're going to be able to fully annex the Western Sahara into their country, and with this becoming officially one of the strongest countries in Africa, as they also have this Algerian province over here in the desert. Doesn't make them too much stronger, but they're definitely a threat on the map in larger scale. After this event, we now move over to the eastern region of Africa for yet another event. And we can go ahead on the alliances layer and do something we haven't yet, and that is erase a symbol, because we're also erasing a capital. I wonder why. This is because South Sudan will officially join in with the country of Victoria, the union between Kenya and Uganda, and form the East African Federation. This was planned, but because of this reality being so weird, it couldn't really happen immediately, so yeah, they just waited. And now, the time was ripe, so we see this country officially forming. They plan to expand further, but this Rwanda is a little rebellious, so they're gonna have to figure that out before they can do anything about that. But countries like Burundi and maybe the Congo would still definitely like to join up with this union. So we'll have to come and check up with this once again in a future episode. We now head off into Asia for something that's been brewing for some time, and that is happening in the remainder of the CCP. As you can see, this thing is not doing so well. They barely have any coastline, and they're struggling to retain all this land over here, and it's just becoming too much. Protests turn into riots, and riots turn into full-scale revolution. It starts off pretty easily in the south, not much happens, but a movement is definitely here. It's not that violent at first, but after the government responds with violence, they get violent. Very quickly, this rebellion spreads through all of this province here, and it's not looking too good as the pink group is marching east, and eventually it gets so bad that they just take over. And yeah, it's not very good at first. The pink team very much struggles to retain the country, and eventually they're gonna go ahead and work out a deal to go ahead and make sure that their country is not gonna break apart again. And it starts over here in the west, as they're gonna go ahead and have to divide themselves anyway. Looking at this, I've gone ahead and drawn a line for two provinces over in the eastern area, or western area of this country, sorry. And yeah, basically, they're gonna go ahead and grant these two provinces over to the purple team in order to increase stability within their own country. And this will do wonders for them, as not only are they expanding a country who was pretty against the original regime, so now they're pretty friendly with them, but they're also letting go of a lot of rebellious territory that would not benefit them in the long run. And after this, they're gonna go ahead and do one more thing, and that is officially apply for membership within the Diamond Alliance. Very quickly, this will work out in their favor, as the country will go ahead and get added into the Diamond Alliance, pretty simply as so. And now the Diamond Alliance expands, and now they basically have full control over the Chinese region. However, things are now beginning to shift, as their real goal wasn't really to do that. It wasn't really to unite China. It's to rival someone in particular. And that alliance will begin to show who it is pretty soon on, for real, but it's pretty obvious who they're going to have to compete with. The Trapezoid Alliance is growing in power, and they're definitely a formidable threat that the Diamond Alliance will have to face down the line, whether it's now or in a few episodes. It's not going to be now, obviously, because we literally just did that, but it's going to become blatantly obvious that these two are rivals after what happens next. As we move down into the area of Central Asia right here, to Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. These countries are all pretty unstable, and nobody here really knows what's going on within their countries. All three are pretty locked out from the rest of the world. These three countries are not very successful, especially because the realities they came from are pretty similar, all in the aspect that these countries were all fighting each other within each of these realities, and they hate each other. Perfect for a country to go ahead and grow its influence in. And so, like that, the Kazakh group with the Trapezoid Alliance will go ahead and basically make all these countries fight each other. It doesn't start out that bad at first. It's usually just a few border conflicts between Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, but eventually internal conflicts will grow within all three, but it will first be seen in Tajikistan as something major will happen within this country. And what I was talking about is a full-scale divide between this country, as the eastern half has gone ahead and broken away from the western half because the western half has gone ahead and made itself very unlikable for all of the other neighboring countries and for the population of Tajikistan itself. Eventually, it gets so much worse, and after this, the rest of Tajikistan will basically just collapse. A line is drawn down the middle of the country, and after a few days, the country is officially divided between its two other neighbors, other than Afghanistan. We're not talking about Afghanistan right now. But yeah, these two countries will benefit from the collapse of Tajikistan, gaining two large chunks of land. But you may think that this is only a benefit to these countries. However, it wasn't really easy to divide this land, and there were many conflicts between the Kyrgyz government and Uzbekistan regarding who gets what and why they deserve to get that. Eventually, it boils over, and these two countries are officially at war. Though it's not easy to have war in such an environment, these two countries will make best of what they can do, and both will begin to invade the other. This will be a long back and forth conflict between these two countries that will last a while, and we'll come back to it, probably in the next episode, where we can see where it ends up turning. Anyways, we now move on to the next event, and I'm realizing this now, but this episode's probably going to be the longest one. I'm already at 40 minutes of recording. That's the longest recording I've done yet, but we still have a lot in my list. And we're going to start off our next event, moving over to the English government. England, in this timeline, has not seen the brightest history. Their empire wasn't very successful, and their current government isn't very popular. So what do you do when your current government isn't very popular? Well, you go ahead and invade the Irish, because that's what they think they need to do. English forces will go ahead and land in Northern Ireland, and they will take over a large chunk of territory before the public will go ahead and send an outcry about this. They don't really care though, because they're going to continue pushing down south, and eventually they're going to go ahead and secure a foothold in this region and force the Irish into a peace deal. So let's go ahead and what they end up doing with this land, so we can actually see how England ends up after this war. Let's see that. And just like that, we now have an official treaty for the war. As you can see, they gained most of Northern Ireland back, except for a little bit of land in the north. They cannot really retain control over that because of its heavy Irish population in that region in this timeline. But yeah, things are very unpopular in England right now, and that war was especially one of them. So much so that their prime minister, whatever they have over there, he's gonna get shot. And after that happens, things will get so much worse, and eventually we're gonna see a massive de facto rebellion happening over here in the very tip of Cornwall. Eventually, it will grow in momentum, and it will go ahead and secure most of the Cornwall region. Eventually, they will go ahead and declare their official separation from the rest of England as a country, taking a little bit more land with them. Unfortunately for England, that war didn't really end up going too much better than they envisioned it. They thought it would go absolutely swimmingly, but it didn't. Now there's yet another country on their border, though I think they still have a net land gain. Who knows? But England's definitely going to be eyeing this guy up in a future episode. Anyways, moving on to the next event, we now leave England behind as we head down to West Africa for a pretty small war as we move over to Mali, which in this timeline is a pretty successful country. In this timeline, Mali benefited off of having the richest leader in the world for multiple more centuries than it did in real life. They didn't go and waste it everywhere, and they used it rather as a source of keeping stability and continuing their growth. However, in this timeline, they did still fall off pretty tremendously. They have a lot more valuable land than they do in real life, and more importantly, they are an economic success, being the strongest country in the region despite their size. Anyways, now their waiting time is over, and they're finally going to make their first move. And this is in response to the formation of the Gold Coast Union, which they see as a play to steal their identity, but also as a form of trying to compete with Mali. Also, if you didn't know, their capital is in Timbuktu right here. That's why it's on the border and isn't in Bamako over here. Yeah, they're going to use that to their advantage as they're going to send a very small unit of their military, and I mean very small, to conquer the entirety of Niger. And this small country right here is all of Niger. And yeah, that took like 3 days. And yeah, bye-bye Niger. Really quickly before I go ahead and like leave this region and erase the capital, this Saharan region is kind of like a de facto separate state. It's a different Niger from a different timeline. There's a little bit of conflict here, but we'll talk about that some other time. Basically, this is Niger, and this is Niger, and Mali took out one Niger, so this one probably likes the Malians because they helped them secure their identity. Anyways, I'm not talking about them anymore, because this is about Mali, not about you. Anyways, we can now leave this area, because we're going to go ahead and move up to Europe once again, for yet another invasion. This time, it's a little more consequential than the last two have been, and that is because it's happening in you. And you may be wondering, who's invading Northern Italy? Who cares about invading Northern Italy? Well, it's the HRE. They're invading directly through the Alps, and you might be wondering, why? Why would you want to invade through the tallest mountains in Europe? Well, they must think they're like Carthage or something. They have Hannibal on their side, which they might, but I mean, they're gonna figure it out anyway. And very quickly, they're going to go ahead and swipe Milan and basically force Northern Italy into a pretty quick peace deal. So they're going to deny everything at first. And yeah, that's going to kind of help the Northern Italians not get fully annexed by the HRE, as Austria and Italy will both begin invasions into this country as well. They don't want to be fully a part of the HRE. But now, eventually, they will go ahead and convince the full country to surrender. And yeah, that was pretty chaotic, as nobody expected the HRE to invade Northern Italy. They probably expected it to be Bohemia next, or maybe even the Pentagon Alliance or the Circle Alliance, which is directly opposing you. But yeah, they wiped out Northern Italy, which was a pretty unpopular move, but it was surprisingly very successful. The results of this war are pretty crazy, and let's go ahead and look at them really quickly. Now, looking at this peace treaty, we can see that the HRE has gone ahead and gotten itself a Mediterranean coastline. Never would I ever think I would say that, but I mean, technically they did in real life, and technically they do in this world as well. And they also have full control over Switzerland now. But more importantly, Italy gained one province, so they expanded a little more northward, and the Austrians gained a little more coastline. And now, the HRE is pretty more hated, and it's going to have a pretty large negative effect for the HRE. And basically what that is a certain country is going to be joining an alliance they were not intending to join in the first place, but now they have to, because otherwise they would probably be at risk of losing their position as the strongest country in this continent. Oh, Sweden. Sweden is the strongest country in Europe, and they have gone ahead and joined up with the Circle Alliance in order to oppose the HRE and their expansion. This is a massive move that I wasn't planning on doing in this episode. In fact, I had it written down for like a few more episodes down the line, but I've kind of just been enjoying recording, so I've been throwing some events ahead of time, and this is one of them. So yeah, the HRE did a pretty unpopular move, and now everyone and their mother hates them. So yeah, you better watch your back, HRE, because they are coming for you. We'll see more of this in later episodes, but for now, we're leaving this region to go ahead and move right on down to Iberia, because Iberia is not in a good position. But this also ties into the last event, because the HRE is kind of friendly with some of the countries down here, and that's gonna be a pretty big, like, information for these, like, countries down here, because they might want to attack them, so they aren't on the side of the HRE. Anyways, basically what goes down here is that Catalonia is a member of the Circle Alliance, and they're friends with Valencia and the Granadan country, and also the Basque region. They're friends with all those guys. And basically, Spain and Galicia, as well as Portugal in a certain sense, Portugal's more so just friends with these two, but Galicia and the rest of Spain are pretty friendly with the HRE, and they don't really like that. And so, in an attempt to go ahead and stop the HRE from making any friends, they're gonna go ahead and launch an invasion of Spain. Granada, or Andalusia, sorry, that's not a country. I mean to be talking about Granada's historical name for this region, I think. But Andalusia, Valencia, Catalonia, and the Basque region will go ahead and declare war on Spain, with Galicia and Portugal going ahead and allying themselves with Spain to probably hope that they can beat these guys. Off the rip, things aren't going well for the Spanish, as the Andalusians, with their massive army, will go ahead and secure a large amount of territory, not only in their land, but also in southern Portugal, as they kind of anticipated on the Portuguese and Galicians joining this war, so they were ready for that. As well as that, we're going to see the Valencian forces also moving out. This country's much smaller, so they can't really do as much, but they're definitely going to get some stuff done. As well as that, Catalonia will also send their forces in, beginning an invasion in hopes of expanding their own territory. As well as that, the Basque country is in this war, but they're not really as dedicated to it. They're more so trying to like gain ground around their capital because they're in fear that Spain would invade them themselves, so they're kind of just taking advantage of this situation. Anyways, we're going to cover more of this in the next episode, because we have one last thing to get to in this episode, as we're heading over to the Trapezoid Alliance towards the Volga country. In the last episode, we talked how they knocked out the entirety of the Republic of Azov. And that wasn't for the whole goal of gaining a direct coastline, because there's more to that. And their reasoning is that they were preparing for something much grander, something much more sinister. And now they're gonna do it, and nobody expected this move to happen. Balkan forces, as well as their allies in all of the Trapezoid Alliance, will line the border of Moscow, or Russia, whatever you want to call it. and they will send a note to the president of Russia saying, "Given to our demands, cease any hostility and give up all of your country to the Trapezoid Alliance and devote yourself to the greater idea of communism." Despite not being hostile with the Trapezoid Alliance, Russia has been caught in a situation which they cannot escape. They're trapped. They can't do anything about this. Their country is too weak. They've been weak ever since episode 1. They haven't had enough time to fully recover themselves. And so, they can't do anything about this. They can't do anything. They can't fight back. They also can't just give in. Their people would forever oppose their government for doing something. So, not their government. And so, Russia, in hopes that it's simply a farce, will decline, saying no to the Trapezoid Alliance. And that is the final straw in the existence of Russia as a nation. Forces previously stationed along the border between the Trapezoid countries and Russia will begin to march in unison along a long line into Russia without stopping. Balkan forces move the quickest and quickly meet up with the Ukrainian border, and without much resistance, they begin to glide straight through Russian territory. As well as that, forces also begin to pour straight out of Tatarstan and into Russia directly, taking over this entire panhandle and this one as well. They will quickly begin to unite the front line into one in order to wipe out Russia once and for all. Anyways, that's gonna do it for today's episode, and if you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, something, and subscribe. This video has definitely been the most, this has been the most entertaining recording I think I've ever done to this point, and it's just so crazy that, I've had this much fun. The whole reason I ended my Wixo is because I wasn't having this fun that I was, searching for, and now it's right in front of me. I'm having it. And, it's just so crazy. I mean, this series, I've been writing so much for it, and it's I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to do more than I've already gotten written. I've already gotten, the next almost 10 episodes written that I've just, been wanting to do so much with this series. It's just so much is going through my brain. I have so many ideas, and I can't do that much in one episode alone. I've been recording for basically an hour now. That's my longest recording of any mapping video I think ever, other than the compilations, but this has been pretty fun to do, and I want to keep doing videos like this, but I can't really if these videos flop. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you do subscribe. It helps me push out more content like this. As well as that, make sure you like the video. It helps push out this video to more people to see that this video is not just a video, it's something more. It's a story, it's a series, it's a lot more, and I'm kind of getting emotional over it. I don't mean to get like that, but yeah, this has been my dream to make a series like this. Not necessarily it could be more popular, but it's been so much fun doing this. I want to keep doing it like this. So yeah, if you did enjoy, make sure you do put your word out, because this series, even though it's only the 5th episode in, it means a lot to me. And yeah, without anything else to say, I'm gonna end the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode. See ya.